Hi everybody, welcome back to AbFab. I hope you all had an amazing week. I thought this video we would do something a little different, so I've used different lighting. I've got my face right up front and central for you because we're going to do something that I haven't done on this channel, which is a little bit of baking. So we're going to do some baking, and like on all good recipes, you're going to need some ingredients. So if you're interested in baking your under eye concealer for the 40 plus, then just continue watching this video. You're going to need some ingredients. So the first ingredient you're going to need for our baking recipe today is a good creamy under eye concealer. I happen to use the Tarte Maracuja Creaseless Concealer in the color Fair, of course. You're going to need a really good concealing brush for underneath your eye. You're going to need a dampened beauty blender. You're going to need some loose setting translucent powder, and then you're going to need a clean powder or blush brush to take that away. And lastly, you're going to need a fixing spray at the end. So pause this video now, and then when you come back, we'll get started with the baking of our under eye concealer. The number one most important thing to do while baking your under eye is to make sure, obviously, like any kind of makeup application, you start off with a clean face, and then make sure you put on daily moisturizer and a really good under eye cream. That's most important because this technique is a full makeup technique. It is not for the lighthearted. It is really recommended for people that are doing a lot of flash photography, where there's any bright lights, and not kind of an everyday makeup look. So keep all of those things in mind, but the most important is you don't want to put it on dry skin, that's for sure. Okay, so I thought also for the comparison to see if it really works for the more mature sort of, you know, face of the 40 plus, specifically the eyes. That's why I have nothing on under my eyes. I have some lipstick, and I have mascara and a little eyeshadow and my foundation, but I do not have anything underneath my eyes. So half of the face I'm going to do in the baking technique, and this side of the face I'm just going to apply the regular under eye concealer as I would every other day of the week. So we can kind of compare at the end and see the difference. Okay, so let's start off with our under eye concealer. Obviously, if your concealer is like a pressed powder, this is not going to work. You need a creamy concealer to work against the powder. So we're going to just take a tiny little bit of this. If you're familiar with this Tarte Maracuja Creaseless Concealer, you know that it is amazingly like full coverage and opaque, so you need the tiniest little bit. So I'm just going to do that now. Just put a tiny, tiny little bit on the back of my hand, literally like that much. It's also important when you're applying your creamy foundations, if you can, if it's like in a tube form like that, put it on at the back of your hand, because part of the baking technique is actually warming up your makeup to your body temperature. So that's really important. So I'm going to take my concealer brush, and I'm just going to get a little bit of that product, and I'm just going to start working it into the eye. So I'm just going to start dabbing it around the eye area here. Wherever you have the discoloration, but I'm really just starting to dab that concealer not directly under the eye. I'm going to work that up into the eye area, but just kind of getting it just below the area there where I would typically need it. And if you want, you can also bring some concealer around the edge of your nose, because a lot of times we have redness around our nose due to hormonal sort of changes. Okay, so once you've kind of got that all sort of spread that way, great. And then we're going to just take our dampened beauty blender, and we're going to just work it into the areas to give it that nice airbrushed look. So I'll just dab it that way for you. And it's really important also to go not in one direction with your eye concealer. You want to go in all the directions. So you want to just really sort of get all of that nicely blended. I would also normally take this a little bit on the lid, but like I said, I already have some eyeshadow primer and some eyeshadow. So this is strictly for just doing the under eye. Like so. Good. And then if you want, you can take your brush, because sometimes just in the shallows by the tear duct, we don't quite get enough concealer in there. So you can go in there using your ring finger and just lightly blend that into the corner there. All right. So that looks pretty good. When it's all nicely blended, then you want to start the actual baking technique. So I'm using the Laura Geller sort of loose translucent setting powder. And then I'm going to take my dampened beauty blender, pick up the actual powder, and I'm just going to start putting that on under the eye. And it's really important not to be kind of stingy with the powder here. The idea of this is that you're setting your under eye concealer with the actual translucent powder, so you want to be quite generous with that. All right, so once you think you have really good coverage there, then you just don't want to touch it. You just want to literally just let it sit. Okay, so now we're going to go over to this eye, and I have two new products that I use, that I'm using for this eye. I like to just use a sort of doe foot applicator creamy concealer for the daytime because it's nice and quick and it goes on pretty easily. So I'm just going to use this as the Maybelline Better Skin, I believe the concealer, and it's a doe foot applicator with Actyl C, which is like this high potency vitamin C. So the longer you use it, it's supposed to actually help with your skin, and obviously it is in the color Fair. So again, just kind of going around the eye area there, bring it down a little bit, and then I'm just going to blend that with my ring finger. So just really lightly dabbing to sort of bring it up there, because actually it kind of gives you a little bit of a mini facelift when you have sort of a little bit brighter. And your concealer typically should be a tiny bit brighter than your natural skin color because it also helps to illuminate. Okay, and the same thing as on the other side, but because I have powder here, I'm not going to apply powder to my eye, so I'm just going to use the dampened beauty blender here just to kind of give it that nice airbrush look. Like so. And hello, this is a shout out to my mom and my aunt and my dad who are sunning themselves in sunny California. Miss you lots, and hope you guys are all having a really great time. All right, they're like my #1 fans. Okay, so once you kind of have that as well nicely sort of blended, I also have this great blendable concealer pencil from L'Oreal. It is the L'Oreal True Match Blendable Concealing Crayon, and of course, again, it is in the color light, but it is neutral color. So I like to do that for underneath here because this eye, for whatever reason, has a deeper shallow somehow than the other side. So I like to bring it in there if I miss anything by the crow's feet over here. And it's beautiful because, like it said, it's a very blendable. So you just use your ring finger and then you kind of just work it into the more narrow areas that would be harder to get with your beauty blender. All right, like so. Good. And then what I would typically do is then I would just continue on with my eyeshadow and mascara, like all my eye applications, and then I would start to do my contour and my blush. But for the sake of this video, we're not going to do that, so that you're able to sort of you know, compare one eye to the other eye. Now, the other part about baking your under eye concealer as well is once you've applied that loose translucent powder, you want it to warm up to your body temperature. That takes about 10 to 15 minutes. For the sake of this video, obviously, I'm not going to just be jabbering on and talking to you for the next 10 to 15 minutes. But ideally, you want to do that again because that gives the best effect for the actual powder to set. But like I said, we're just going to pretend that 10 minutes has passed and we are ready to take off our under eye concealer, or excuse me, our powder. So do not go in with just a dry brush. Take a tiny little bit of powder, just because it helps to glide over the powder you just did. And now you just want to very softly start to take off that powder that you just put on underneath your eye. Like so. Okay, so we are almost done. The last step now is to actually take our setting spray. Then you're just going to want to sort of give a spray or two to your face to kind of set everything. All right, so you want to let that dry. What is the weather like down in California? I would love to know, because I'm up here baking my under eye concealer while some people are partying and shopping and having fun, which I hope you guys are. Okay, so when it's all sort of dried and you've zhuzhed your hair up and you are ready to go, then you will look at your finished work. And you will say, oh my God, this is incredible. You'll be like, I look easily 20 years younger. So remember, this was the baking eye. This was the regular under eye concealer. I just randomly chose eyes. I didn't pick one that had the bigger sort of puffiness and wrinkles to the other. And I think you can see very easily that this eye just kind of has that nice soft smoothing of the under eye area. And this eye, while concealed, still kind of has that sort of demarcation where you can kind of see a little bit more pronounced than this eye. Keeping in mind again that this baking technique for your under eye concealer is strictly a full makeup application. This is not for the, you know, makeup, no makeup look, and this is not for every day, because eventually over time throughout your evening, the powder will slowly start to set in the fine lines again, and then that'll eventually just accentuate it. But using those techniques, moisturizing your face and your under eye skin, your creamy concealer and blending it out, and then using the translucent powder, not a pressed powder, and certainly not a powder with any shade to it, because that's when you start to get the cakiness onto your actual under eye, and then that's when the baking technique really doesn't look that good. But you can just really see how soft the baking technique looks on this eye, and on this eye, you know, it was fast. It just took like a couple of minutes and then you're ready to go. And there's nothing wrong with it. This will definitely last now with the setting spray as well, but it's just not quite as nice and refined as this one. And this one's beautiful for photographic you know, flash or if you're out and about on the town with a full makeup look. So I hope you really enjoyed this baking 101 for your under eye concealer for the 40 plus. I always enjoy doing these videos, and I love when you guys leave a comment or a suggestion for videos to do in the future. And if you're not subscribed to my channel AbFab, then please just hit the little subscribe button. It's just just a tiny little button down at the bottom of the screen. It doesn't cost you anything. It's absolutely free, and you can come back week after week where we will talk about all things to do with makeup and everything that's absolutely fabulous, like yourself. So I hope you all have an amazing week, and I will see you guys next week. Bye, everybody. Mwah. Bye.